Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Scott McFarland. Former President Trump handpicked Herschel Walker to run for that Georgia Senate seat back in 2021. And right away, there were questions about candidate quality. And it took Republican leader Mitch McConnell months to embrace Walker's candidacy. And then there was scandal after scandal after scandal. And now many are blaming the former president for pushing a flawed candidate in such a competitive swing state. Another example of Republican elected officials having to do the delicate dance of pushing back on Mr. Trump while not alienating his supporters.
We don't undo anything. We never are for anything. Then when it comes to how do you change it, Trump was the manifestation of half the country fed up with that back in 16. We did a lot of things that worked. And if that's going to work going forward, you're going to have to talk about what worked, not what you're mad about.
So I hate overgeneralizing and saying it was all because of this voice on it one way or the other. There's just no way to ever tell because everybody has a different perspective on it.
I don't think this was any referendum on President Trump. I think this is a referendum on us learning the cycle of how to run an election. And we found that in several states. And being a football coach, you lose a game, you learn from it. You win a game, you learn from it. And we as Republicans have to learn about getting people out to vote.
Joining us now, CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, you did great work today speaking with so many Republicans. I'm having difficulty getting a sense of who the fall guy is here. Everybody says that there was a defeat, but nobody seems to be ascribing blame to anyone.
Yeah, Scott, that's exactly right. And you're not hearing Donald Trump being called out by name, although he's kind of hovering over all of this. What's interesting being up on the Hill and talking to these lawmakers and also talking to operatives in the states is that you're not hearing really any sugarcoating about what happened to Republicans this midterm year. There's not a lot of people saying, well, look, at least we won the House. They are acknowledging that there are problems within the party, especially with independent voters. That's what I heard over and over from Republicans today on Capitol Hill, saying that the party has a problem with independent voters. But when asked, what is the problem, they couldn't really articulate what that is. We heard a lot of them say, look, we need to have an agenda. We need to have something forward-looking. We need to have something to offer voters instead of just running against someone. But when you ask about how Donald Trump plays into this, you kind of get some mixed results. There is a feeling, kind of broadly speaking, of Republicans wanting to move on from him, but they don't quite know how to do that without alienating his base of support, which they still need. And they really need to kind of thread this needle between Trump supporters and voters that he brought into the party, and also those suburban voters that have left the party over the past couple of years under Donald Trump. That is kind of the key here. And so that's a big question facing these lawmakers. Another thing that I heard over and over again from lawmakers up here, Scott, was that Republicans need to wake up to the idea that they need to get their voters to turn out early and to vote by mail, and need to kind of capitalize on those kinds of resources. This, of course, after years of Donald Trump demagoguing vote by mail and early voting, Republicans are saying, that essentially has cost them in some of these races.
Been a difficult 24 hours for the former president in particular. Trump.org is convicted by a jury in New York on 17 counts. The runoff goes the wrong way for him in Georgia. Now, I get this sense that there's a unique and growing fatigue setting in with senators of having to answer questions about Donald Trump every day again. Did you get that kind of either sense or pushback today?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Scott. I've been feeling this today. I felt it last week when I was up here. Republican lawmakers are pretty exhausted by it, especially when, every Monday it seems there is some kind of new controversy surrounding the former president, whether it was dining with Kanye West and Nick Fuentes, whether it was his comments over this past weekend, trying to do away with parts of the Constitution, to today as they're kind of grappling with the results not only in Georgia, but the midterm landscape more broadly, and trying to, move on from this and win elections. They now have several data points about a weakened former president. But right now, he is the only one that is running in 2024 as of now. And I've been having, conversations with Republicans about whether they need to, coalesce early around an alternative. A lot of operatives kind of make the point now that they have other options going into the next election, but it's not clear who that will be. And as you're looking at these Republicans, a lot of them are looking at these midterm results and saying, well, maybe I should get in, and we'll see if that happens.
We may have to figure out the answer to that in a matter of months, if not weeks. Caitlin Huey-Burns at the U.S. Senate tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.